Welcome to the module on how to pick a good investment property. The outcomes are to provide a sophisticated knowledge on how to select investment properties strategically, optimizing for important considerations like area, location, and features. Empower investors with confidence in their own ability to screen investment opportunities. This module is most useful for property investors and investors. What makes a good or bad investment property? The answer will differ a lot depending on the individual and their timing. There are a lot of factors to consider before this question is asked, such as, what are my investing goals? What is my budget? Is property investing right for me? What is my investment strategy? You will have to have these questions answered first before you even begin to think about which property to choose. If you're using a property investment advisor or strategist, they will develop the broader criteria in terms of what type of property you are looking for. In other words, the requirements and parameters of a property search are first person specific. The next step is the focus of this video, which is looking at the property specific criteria. It makes good sense to use a professional at this point as well, such as an investment savvy buyer's agent. This is a buyer's agent who has a good understanding of and deals frequently with property investor clients, rather than clients looking for a place to live. Our Sydney listings team is generally on hand to provide basic guidance and cross-reference advice that other professionals give you. This is done without fees and is more about providing peace of mind and a second opinion. Now, what to look for? Our first consideration is risk. Risk tends to correlate with the potential reward on offer for an investment. That is, investments that have more potential to be lucrative have harsher penalties when they fail. An example outside of property would be the Bitcoin boom, or within property, an example like mining towns. For most investors, the potential of these investments to retract dramatically mean that they carry an unacceptable level of risk. This is why when looking at good investment property, it is better to focus on areas that already have a track record of capital growth or predictable cycles. It is better to focus first on the drivers that make a good area, and then secondly on features that make a good property. So what are the factors that make an area good to invest in? These are basically factors that will attract owner-occupiers looking for a certain lifestyle. Access to jobs. This is a driving factor for a lot of location movement. Does the area contain or is it near to areas that supply jobs, such as a business district or shopping centre? Leisure amenity. Does the area have amenity and retail to support after-work lifestyles, such as cafes, restaurants, park and leisure areas, gyms, movie cinemas and the like? Government spending in the area. Infrastructure projects driven by governments are carried out with the use of data, research and planning. So infrastructure projects by their nature have a ripple effect. They result in rezoning, additional development, and an increase in demand due to improved facilities, transport, and serviceability. A good example are new rail links, road projects, or other major changes like the Western Sydney Airport. Keep in mind these factors can have some negative impacts, particularly if involving major construction in certain pockets or by redirecting rail line activity. Proximity to CBD. Many investors maintain rule of thumbs around proximity to the CBD when selecting properties. This is because CBDs tend to feature both high job and recreation drivers. And some investors use a rule of thumb of 15 kilometres, others use a driving base radius of 1 hour as a guide, or make exceptions to such rules for a city like Sydney considering its density. Second CBDs like Parramatta are also worth considering. So what are some property features that investors should look for? Rarity. Well, once you've determined an area, consider what makes a given property rare for this area. Does it have a double balcony, large kitchen size, more parking, second story, pool, or something else that other properties in the area can't compete with? This helps drive up the property's value, as demand for such features will make the property stand out and become worth more than other comparable properties. Scarcity. Similar to rarity, but focusing less on uniqueness than a shortage of supply. For example, an area dominated by apartments that appeals to families may have a shortage of detached houses. Discounted properties. These are properties you can secure for below their true value. How do we ascertain the true value of a property? Well, you could argue that a property is really only worth what someone is willing to pay for it at a given point in time, relative to someone else is willing to let it go for. Sydney Listings is able to help in this regard to gauge value and provide negotiation tips, as well as what to look for. When securing a property below its true value, there are in many ways an instant equity gain. As my father says, you make money when you buy, not when you sell. Potential for uplift. There are normally more capital gains to be realised when you can manufacture value by renovating or refurbishing and make additions like a granny flat. Other uplift may be if your property has development potential now or in the future. But be careful when speculating about future rezoning. High portion of property value derived by the land. Typically, land itself has a major impact on the value of a property, whilst the dwelling quality on top drives the rental return. Many advisors advise the properties where the land component contains a large portion of the property's value are smarter investments, as this value is more intrinsic and immutable. Affordability. Affordable properties are quite simply more accessible to buyers, and this can be useful if needing to sell a property during a downward cycle, sustaining demand. Manageable costs. It is important to make sure that there are no unreasonable costs involved with the property. Strata and body corporate levies are often one of the major ongoing expenses for property investors as well as an owner. They are higher in proportion to greater upkeep of the complex, which is why it can be prudent to avoid complexes that have excessive upkeep in amenities such as pools and gyms or building issues. This is also the issue with holiday properties, which normally have more expenses involved in their maintenance. Rentability. Rent is not a contributor to capital growth, but rent and rentability must be understood well. If you cannot hold an investment because of its expenses, then it cannot perform for you. A common investor mistake is to purchase a property with poor features, like small bedroom sizes, because it will only be rented out. At Sydney Listings, one of our principles is to always plan for a rainy day. That is, make sure the property will rent and or sell relatively easily in a down market when renters and purchasers have more options. One tip when looking is to compare floor plans for dwellings in the area to determine what features are unique in terms of size of bedrooms and living areas and what features are on offer. This will help to determine scarcity and rarity as well as rentability specific to the area you're looking. Remember that we are ultimately looking for owner-occupier appeal in investment properties. It is the owner-occupiers who will make your property more valuable over time via their demand for your property. So think about how people will be living in the future, how people want to live in a particular area, and why. It is not a matter of buying just any property. Check out our checklist in the resources section to make sure you don't miss a beat when choosing the right property for your strategy. Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Sydney Listings Academy. Just a quick disclaimer that this advice is generic and is not to be used by individuals. We take no liability for misuse of this information and encourage you to seek out professional advice specific to your situation. Please reach out to get in touch with our network of trusted professionals if you so need it. And just before you take off, just a quick note, obviously we're working on something with the Sydney Listings Academy to help educate people about the potential in property, finance and investing. So if you want to support the Sydney Listings Academy, please share the content with friends, family and followers if you have them. And also follow Sydney Listings on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and or YouTube, wherever you like to hang out, as well as our website, and check that out for more resources as well. Thank you very much guys, and we'll see you in the next video.